This week on the Steele Report.
And we want those veterans to sign up to travel to Washington, D.C.
The Cedar Valley Honor Flight is looking for veterans for next year's flight in June. We'll tell you how you can make an application. Plus,
spectators are welcome as well, or you can participate in the 5K. You can walk, run, or roll.
Coming up on September 11th, it's the Hope and Honor 9/11 5K, how you can get involved. And our program begins right now.
Now from KWWL, this is the Steele Report.
Right now, I'd like to welcome back to the Steele Report for this week Amanda Huesman from the city of Cedar Falls. She is the communications specialist, and also joining us for the first time is Lieutenant Gavin Carmen of Cedar Falls Public Safety Department, Police Department, obviously. And Officer Carmen, thanks very much for being on the show. This is your first time.
Yeah.
Are you nervous at all? Or
Oh, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Well, don't be. Obviously, 9/11, September 11th, the anniversary is coming up here very quickly. And this year, for the very first time, an inaugural event. I'm going to let Amanda talk about it because it's going to happen actually on the morning of September 11th.
Yeah, well, the city of Cedar Falls, we're very excited to host the September 11th. We are calling it the Hope and Honor 9/11 5K. And this will take place in the morning on September 11th. That is a Wednesday. And we are inviting everybody from across the community, across Iowa, to attend. Spectators are welcome as well, or you can participate in the 5K. You can walk, run, or roll. It'll take place on the Cedar Prairie Trails, which is just off South Main Street in Cedar Falls. Parking is available at the Falls Aquatic Center. Then you can just walk across the street and check in at Paw Park starting at 6:45 a.m. And then the actual event will begin at 7:15 a.m. just across the street at the Scott Sterrett Memorial Markers. And we are very excited for this event, and we can't wait to see our community come out.
We'll show you the webpage right here, the Hope and Honor 9/11 5K. Is it a fundraiser in any way or just a memorial event?
It's a little bit of everything. To participate, participants just need to bring 2 non-perishable items to be donated to the Northeast Iowa Food Bank. They will have a truck on site, and that was really our way of getting the community involved and giving back to our community. And then that's all you need to do to participate. And the first 100 5K finishers will receive a medal courtesy of 4 public safety emblems. And in addition to that, we'll also have informational booths available on site. So these booths are really resources for veterans, first responders, citizens, and their families. They'll be from all over. We have representatives from AMVETS, Retrieving Freedom, which is an organization that trains special service dogs for veterans and children with autism. We also have Blackhawk Mental Health will be there as well, in addition to a lot of other vendors.
So, you know, it's been 23 years, Lieutenant Carmen, and you've been researching this for many years. You know how important law enforcement was that day and first responders. Kind of reflect on what happened that day as we recall history and a moment in history that will certainly never be forgotten.
Yeah, for those of us who were around during the events of 9/11, it was really a life-changing moment for everybody. And, you know, on the events of 9/11, 441 first responders, that's firefighters, police officers, medical personnel, running towards danger when the average citizen was running away, paid the ultimate sacrifice and perished trying to help their fellow Americans. And I think it's very important that we continue to honor their sacrifices and carry on their legacy.
Well, so this is an event that obviously Cedar Falls Public Safety is going to be heavily involved in. Are you a runner yourself?
Well, I used to be. And now my wife and I have started running again. So maybe you'll see me in action on the morning of 9/11 running.
It's just a day to reflect on what happened in that moment in history.
Oh yes, and everybody is welcome. Whether you are walking, running, you are welcome to come. We will have medals for the first 100 5K finishers, but the route itself is very scenic. If you've been around that route, it starts and ends in the same place, and it's a really nice area, so it's very accessible. So you do not have to be a serious runner at all to participate in this, and we want as many people as possible. Really, It's all in the title. You know, we want to remember, we want to honor the sacrifice of our 9/11 first responders, but we also want to provide hope for the future. And that is why we have these resources available on site from these healthcare organizations, from these veteran organizations. So public safety personnel, veterans, families, they are all invited to stop by, take advantage of the information, and they don't have to participate. You can just come and watch and cheer everybody on, and you can just take advantage of those resources that we'll have.
And it's interesting, I don't think I've ever heard of a 5K event, run walk, where you actually didn't have to pay an entry fee, but you just have to bring a non-perishable food item for a great organization, the Northeast Iowa Food Bank. So that's fantastic. Recently, I had a chance to go on an honor flight, and for the first time, and I think, Lieutenant, you'd find this interesting, we actually stopped at the Pentagon Memorial. And there are a couple of Iowans, several Iowans lost their lives that day, 7 or 8, but 2 of them were actually, honored at the Pentagon Memorial. And one of them, of course, Karen Kincaid of Waverly. She was on board the aircraft that crashed, the hijackers crashed into the memorial. And then Craig Amundsen from Cedar Rapids, he is one of the victims who was actually inside the Pentagon that day when the plane came in. So did you know anyone personally involved?
I did not. I was, I think Amanda and I both were in junior high when 9/11 happened, and like every American who was alive then probably remembers exactly where they were at. And then we were just kind of talking, the generation that we're hiring now, our young public safety employees, most of them weren't even alive when 9/11 occurred, so they don't have that emotional connection or that recollection of the events that happened. So that's why I think it's really important that we continue to honor the legacy and support the lifelong commitment to public safety and community service and giving back to your fellow Americans.
So much about this is making the new generation, giving them that connection, and like I said, providing resources for the future. And what we're also welcoming people to do as part of this 5K, if you've seen it on social media, they have a lot of different challenges where public safety personnel will wear their gear and walk up steps to stimulate how many steps it took for those first responders to get to the top of the World Trade Center. So we're inviting people, if they are able, to wear weighted vests, to wear turnout gear if you're a public safety organization, and participate in the race to kind of pay homage to what the public safety personnel endured that day.
Yeah, and you mentioned the markers for the Scott Sterrett race, which interestingly is still happening, but Lieutenant, you said it's going to be a little bit later this year, right?
Yes.
Former Cedar Falls Police Reserve officer, yeah.
Yeah, Scott Sterrett was a longtime Cedar Falls Police Reserve officer for us and died of cancer. And so the Sterrett 5K, 10K, half memorial run, they have several distances, depending on what you want to do, is November 2nd this year.
Okay, so we did want to mention that because you are using the same markers for your event on September 11th. So again, Amanda, let's just talk about this. It is actually, I think it's really significant that it's happening exactly on September 11th. That's truly, even though it's the middle of the week this week, it's just a great place to be. And just go over the event again as far as what time should we be there, what time do people start walking and racing.
Well, if you would like to participate, you can register online at cedarfalls.com. There is a quick link button right on the home page, so you can register right online there, and then just arrive. Check-in starts at 6:45 a.m. on September 11th. You can park at the Falls Aquatic Center and then walk across to Paw Park. That's where our resource and vendor booths will be. That is also where our refreshment table will be. And we will have free will donations going towards Retrieving Freedom. That's that local nonprofit organization that helps train specialized service dogs for veterans and children with autism. After you've checked in there, you'll be escorted across the street, and Mayor Danny Loddick will be providing opening welcoming comments, and he will actually do the race as well, so you'll see him be able to participate too. And
as well he should.
Yep, okay. Exactly.
He's a young kid, he should be out there running, that's right.
Yep, exactly. So he'll be providing welcoming comments for everybody, and then we will get the race started.
And of course, I meant that as a joke. He's not a young kid, but in my eyes, he's a pretty young person. But Mayor of Cedar Falls will be there, a lot of other dignitaries, I'm sure, a lot of first responders and Cedar Falls fire and safety personnel. We always appreciate all that you do. You've gone through some interesting years in the last few years, no doubt about that. But
Yeah, we hope to be out in full force, and we invite all area public safety personnel to join us. We want to get as many first responders as can come. Now, obviously, we're 24-hour organizations, but in the chance you find nothing going on that morning, I encourage all of our local first responders to join us for our 5K.
In fact, I do remember several races in previous years where Cedar Falls fire personnel have worn their gear in a race in honor in somebody's memory or in honor of an individual or a department. Yeah.
Yeah. Typically, several of our members will put on our police and fire gear for the Stare at 5K. And or 10K, whatever distance you want to run,
yeah.
And we'll run it in uniform. So.
All right, well, I really appreciate it. Lieutenant Carmen, thanks very much. Amanda Huseman, City of Cedar Falls. As always, thanks for coming in. It's called the Hope and Honor 9/11 5K on the morning of September 11th. And bright and early, so get up and enjoy that day because it's a great tribute to American history. More coming up on the Steele Report in just a moment. Well, right now on this week's edition of the Steele Report, we're here to talk about the Cedar Valley Honor Flight, or as the webpage indicates right here, officially it's called the Sullivan, Hartog, Davis Cedar Valley Honor Flights. It serves 5 area counties, including Blackhawk, Bremer, Buchanan, the northern part of Tama County, and also Grundy County veterans. And I have 2 members of the Cedar Valley Honor Flight Executive Board with me here today. Let's meet them right now. First of all, this is former longtime Waterloo firefighter and fire chief and former Blackhawk County Supervisor Frank Magsamen, also a recent Courier 8/80 recipient. Chief, congratulations on that. That was a great event. And another former Blackhawk County Supervisor and Vietnam veteran, Craig White. Now, both of these gentlemen, as you probably know, have been heavily involved in the Cedar Valley Honor Flights for many years. Let's talk first of all, Chief, why don't you take this, or Craig, either one, doesn't matter. When was the first flight? How many flights have you had, and when's the next flight?
We started it in 2011 after, putting it all together and then coming up with a great sponsor in 2011. And the first number of years we were doing 3 flights a year. So we've continued to do those flights. Our last flight last June was the 30th flight out of the Waterloo Airport for the Cedar Valley Honor Flight. So now we're looking forward into 2025, and we're wanting veterans that have served in World War II, the Korean conflict, the Vietnam conflict, and we want those veterans to sign up to travel to Washington, D.C. and be part of that experience with other veterans so that they can have a day with other veterans, and they then can come home, and many times they'll talk to their families for the first time about what they experienced while they were in the military.
Craig, you're a Vietnam veteran, and now the World War I veterans are all gone. The World War II veterans are going slowly but surely, unfortunately. Now we're down into a lot more Korean conflict, Vietnam, and even I think the last honor flight that I went on was out of the Eastern Iowa Airport. There was even an Iraq War veteran on there. So are you that far along here on the Cedar Valley as well?
Well, we're that far along, but we haven't taken any Iraqi vets because there's not a monument out there for them. So we want to wait till they have a monument to go and, as I say, lay it down, what you went through when you were in the service.
And I think you kind of alluded to this, Chief, earlier, and Craig, you could talk about this, but I remember Burke and Julie Meehee, I think at one point they played for an entire flight all by themselves. That's a tremendous gesture. You've had a lot of great support over the years.
Right, yeah. Skeet was the first one that we got a big donation from, and we can never thank him enough and his family. He's a big supporter of veterans. His father and father-in-law were both in the service, I do believe.
And I think also, at one point, John Deere sponsored one of your flights, right?
Right. I forget how we went about getting the money, but it was a godsend for us at the time to be able to pay for another flight thanks to John Deere's. We're hoping sooner or later they step up to the plate and do it again, or any other big manufacturing or business here in town that feels obligated to honor. That's a great way to honor the veteran.
I think we should talk about, really, you're looking for more veterans to sign up. How many can take a flight, and what's the best way to get a hold of you to sign up for?
Well, I think we take between 90 and 100 veterans on a flight. And one of the best ways to do that is to look at our website, the Cedar Valley Honor Flights.org. And there they can look at an application, they can look at some of the past honor flights, and they can pull that down, fill out that application, and send it in. Also, the Guardian applications are online, but they can also get those applications at any of the Hy-Vee stores in Waterloo, Cedar Falls, or Waverly. And then also we have those applications at veterans organizations here throughout multiple counties that we serve. And we have extended our area into northeast Iowa beyond the 5 initial counties that our hub serves. So there are a number of ways where you can get it, but also you can contact Craig or myself, and then we can get that information to you. We are looking for a flight probably in June of 2025, but we need to have veterans sign up now so that we have the information so that we can build that flight, because there's a lot of logistics that go into it, and we need to have those veterans signed up and the Guardian signed up far in advance of the actual date that we do the flight.
And I noticed that you need volunteers and guardians, and I think you can be as young as 16, Craig, right, to be a guardian, but not over a certain age.
Yeah, right. That's right, Ron. Yeah, we like to keep in a certain age group. But another thing about that is we've only had about 5 or 6 of the local African American vets go. And when I went into basic training in '68, I think 3/4 of my platoon was black guys from Black Hawk County. And when I see some of them, I ask them why. And I worked with a bunch of them in the foundry, and I can't understand why they haven't went. They need to go. It's something they'll never forget.
How many have you been on, both of you? I'm just curious. And what was your reaction going out there with all these veterans?
Well, I had the opportunity to be on 3 of the honor flights. Some of the earlier ones, and then this last one, our 30th honor flight. I took the opportunity to go out with that. But when you talk to the veterans and you talk to the families, they had no idea how they would be impacted by going on the Cedar Valley Honor Flight, partaking in the events out in Washington, D.C., and then interacting with other veterans, but also interacting with their families and talking to their families about what experiences they had while they were serving our country. So it's all about the veterans. It's about their experience. But when you're on that flight, you get to witness that. You get to witness when you arrive in Washington, D.C., all of the people that are in the airport, you know, they're clapping, they're congratulating the veterans for their service. So it's truly a life-changing experience.
For many, I know they don't like to talk about what happened in Vietnam or the wars they were in. My dad, I wish he was still alive, he would have loved to go on the honor flight. He was one of those that, of course, lied about his age in World War II and joined up right away. So, Craig, was that the way it was for you? Were you anxious to get involved?
Yes. My whole family goes back a long ways of serving the country and being a part of this great nation, serving our country. My dad and 5 brothers, my mom's 2 brothers, and 2 of my cousins were in World War II, all at the same time, and they all made it home. So God really blessed the White family during that time period.
Exactly. I notice you're wearing a bracelet of Travis Vaughn. Of course, Travis's group is not eligible
Right.
yet for your flights, but there's an
Right.
example of someone who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
And people sometimes lose sight of that, don't they?
Right, they sure do. Well, I've worn these for quite a few years now. The ones I had on before were Hartog Davis and my cousin Stan White from Charles City, but they got so thin they were cutting my wrists every so often. So it was time to take those off and go with new ones.
And of course, Travis's mom has been
Yeah.
carrying on the legacy
Right.
of not just the honor flights and her son's memory, but other veterans right here in this area.
Right. Yep. This is a good community for support most of the time, but sometimes it seems to take a back seat of honoring our veterans. That's why we hope we can get the people on the east side, the guys that live over on the east side or wherever they live, to sign up and go. They need to go. We want them to go. And I told them if they go and they don't like it, let us know. And we want to know why they didn't like it, because it is rewarding. I remember when being at the airport when one of them come home, the first flight, and Frank's standing there and he goes, are you crying? And I'm going, no, it's hot in here, Frank. And the next time, both of us had tears in our eyes watching those guys come off the plane and seeing, and they almost seem like they're a different person when they come back off that plane, Ron.
There's almost a relief, isn't there?
Yeah,
It's like
sure
I want to talk about this. It's a memorable experience.
Oh, yeah.
It was something that you can't change the past, but you can look forward to the future in honoring those guys.
Ron, there are volunteers that work on committees for these honor flights. No one knows the hours that they have to put in. But the reward is when the veterans come back and you have a packed Waterloo Airport thanking the veterans for their service is the reward that we get for the hours we put in making these flights possible for veterans. And it takes money all of the time because these flights now are running us over $120,000 time we put everything together for that. So it takes constant funding coming in so that we're prepared for the next honor flight. We always have fundraiser in April, but we have fundraisers throughout the year, and we do accept, we accept the gifts, the funding, and there's a mailing address that will be available on the KWL website that you can look for. So, I just want to emphasize, particularly a lot of the Vietnam veterans, when they came back, they didn't get that hero's welcome. They get it now.
And as you're seeing right here, a close-up of this particular book, and it's called The Cedar Valley Honor Flight Story, a photographic journey by Michael Whittlesley. Craig, talk about that a little bit. I think you understand he's been on most of your flights, hasn't he?
Right. Mike's a diehard fan of ours, and it's great to have him on board. And the money that we're raising off the books is going towards one of the honor flights. Mike does a fantastic job on pictures and stuff. There was a picture in one of the times that we were out there. We had put a rose right by one of the, not the unknown soldier, but the Vietnam War monument and the wall, and it was just below Dave Davis's name.
Wow.
And that's one of the guys that I went to, served with during that time period. Good kid.
Yeah, all from Blackhawk County. I think it was Dave Hartog.
Yep, Dave Hartog was from Columbus, and
I remember my wife
Davey
knew him.
Davis was from West High.
Yeah, so that's where you get the original 3 names that are associated with the Cedar Valley Honor Flight. You veterans, get those applications in as early as possible. That helps you out. That way you know who's available, who's eligible, and then get ready for the next flight coming up next June. A big thank you to Frank Magzeman and Craig White for telling us all about the Cedar Valley Honor Flight for next year. Get those applications in early and make a donation to the Cedar Valley Honor Flight if you're in a position to do so, please. We'll wrap things up for this week on the Steele Report in just a moment. And welcome back as we wrap up this edition of the Steele Report for this week. Be sure to register for the Hope and Honor 9/11 5K in Cedar Falls coming up bright and early on the morning of September 11th. And veterans, be sure to get those honor flight applications in early for the next honor flight in the Cedar Valley coming up next June.
I accept your nomination.
And of course, the big story this week, the Democratic National Convention in Chicago and the historic nomination of Kamala Harris as the first woman of color ever nominated for President of the United States by a major U.S. party. On our schedule for next week's program, 2nd District Congressional candidate, Democrat Sarah Corkery. She is our scheduled guest. We'll see you next week.